Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another edition of the monthly Astro Forecast here in the Astro Room on YouTube. I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. This channel is everything tarot, astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, or if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my love. So this is going to be the monthly Astro forecast for the month of May 2023. Can you believe that we are in 2023 already? I mean, time just flies by. I feel like it was just New Year's the other day. I'm still wondering what happened to March. I feel like March was a complete blur, but here we are, new month, new astrology, new energies. And tonight I will be explaining everything that will be coming in the month of May, as well as pulling some cards so we can get some messages from spirit. But I'll be doing that later on in the broadcast. For now, as always, before we get into the nitty gritty, let's do some housekeeping and some announcements. First off, let everyone on Twitter know that we are live so they can come over here and join us. All right. So, as always, if you are joining me live right now, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. Feel free to say hello on your way in the chat. And as always, hit that like button on your way in as well. All right. And if you are catching this on the replay, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in as well. Be sure to hit that like button as well as the subscribe and notification bell. These lives are chock full of information that you will definitely find useful and valuable as you move not only through the week, but through the month. So if you're new here, every Monday night here on YouTube, I do the live weekly Astro forecast. And then the last Wednesday of every month, I do the monthly Astro forecast. So tune in. I've got you covered on all bases. All right. And so let's see who we've got here tonight. All right, we've got Manifest Are Now Eternal. All right, hello. We've got Philip Boone and Ramel, as always. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for tuning in. I appreciate it more than you know. All right, so let's see. What else do we have? So if you are interested in getting your weekly horoscope, you're going to want to text ZODIAC to 855-826-5544. It's my text service where I not only text you a quick and dirty weekly horoscope every Monday morning, but as a subscriber, you will also get 10% off on my site, whether that's astrology reports or luxury candles. Plus, you get first dibs on product launches, exclusive promotions and discounts. Like it's really dope, right? So if you're interested, again, text ZODIAC to 855-826-5544. All right. And if you missed that information will be in the description box below. All right. And if you are new to astrology and you have no idea what's going on, or you started studying astrology, but you're realizing that it's a lot of information. So you might be confused. You might be having issues retaining everything. Don't worry, I got you covered. So I created this thing called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet, which basically gives you the quick and dirty on everything you need to know to start studying astrology. Namely, the 4 pillars of astrology, as I like to call them. It is, or they are, the houses, the planets, the zodiac signs, and the aspects. All right. So it's an 11-page PDF document that basically gives you the quick and dirty on all 4 of these pillars so that you can start committing them to memory. Because despite what anyone may say, astrology is a science, and like any science, requires a good deal of study. So in order to help you start studying or continue studying, I created this cheat sheet. And if you'd like to get it, all you got to do is drop your email address and you'll be good to go. Link for that will be in the description box below. And let's say that you are a visual learner, right? Maybe you started studying because trust and believe, and I'm going on a little tangent right now, but trust and believe, We live in a society right now where everything's microwaved and where everything is sort of handed to you. People don't want to do their own research. They'd rather just have someone spew out the information to them. They'd rather have someone else do the work for them, or even have AI produce what they need, right? However, if you're really trying to get that knowledge, and especially when we're talking about things like the occult, esoteric knowledge, you need to read, like literally read books, okay? So astrology is one of those things where the best way to learn is through reading. Like, what's on the internet is not bad. I'm not saying that, nor is anything you're seeing on YouTube. I mean, clearly I'm giving you the information via YouTube, so it's not bad. But if you're really serious about this, if you really want to know astrology, not just for the sake of knowing it, but to help understand yourself and, take advantage of all of the benefits that astrology has to offer, you're going to have to start reading. Okay. So I've got a video actually called Astrology 101, and I give my 5 top books to start learning astrology. So if you're interested in that, the link will be in the description box below. And speaking of videos, the whole point why I was going on this tangent is that if you are a visual learner, I actually created a video series on how to read your natal chart that goes in depth with each of these 4 pillars. The same 4 pillars that I have covered in this astrology basics cheat sheet, I put it in a series so that you can start reading and understanding your natal chart. All right. And it's called How to Read Your Natal Chart. So if you want that, if you want to check that out, the link to that will be in the description box below. All right. So let's take a breath. Let's take a collective breath for a second. All right. Because we are in the midst of eclipse season. Mercury retrograde is doing its thing, and we are entering a new month where there are going to be plenty of energy shifts. All right. So like I said before, I'm going to break down everything that's going down in the month of May. So get cozy, get some snacks, get some drinks. You might want to get a notepad out so you can take a couple of notes to highlight some important days. And let's get started. All right. So May, like I said, we've got energy shifts galore. Okay. So we're right in the middle of eclipse season. And here's the thing. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I typically say that eclipse season is kind of crazy, right? A lot of wild things can happen. It's very erratic energy. It is the universe's way of shifting things around, right? But here's the thing. This eclipse season doesn't necessarily seem as crazy as some of the other ones. Like, I know me personally, some of the past eclipses over the last 2-3 years have been like straight craziness. This one actually feels kind of good. The one thing that I'll say is that, the eclipse is happening. The current eclipse that we just had is a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, but it's at 29 degrees Aries. It's like literally teetering the line between Aries and Taurus. So although it is in Aries, and we all know how Aries energy can be, it can be very combative, it can be aggressive, right? I feel like that's why I felt like I was bracing myself for this particular eclipse, because the fact that it's in Aries made me feel like, okay, I'm gonna have to fight somebody, or there's gonna be some kind of confrontation, something's gonna be, crazy or whatever. It just hasn't been. I feel like there's a little bit of that Taurus energy that's sort of calming it down a bit. Okay. So I feel like this eclipse season, this particular eclipse has not been that crazy. However, I feel like a lot of what we need resource wise is making its way to us. And I feel like that is sort of the flavor of this eclipse for several reasons. Number one, because it's teetering that line between Aries and Taurus, right? But number two, this eclipse, this one in the one that just passed, and then we have one final eclipse in Taurus in the fall that is closing the chapter of this particular story. Okay, so eclipses, and I kind of went into this in one of my last videos, which I'll put in the description box below. But the eclipses happen at the lunar nodes, and the lunar nodes stay in a particular set of signs for at least 18 months. So for every 18 months, it's like there's a certain theme in our lives around a particular topic. So let's take a walk down memory lane for a second, okay? So first, I want you to identify where Taurus and Scorpio are in your natal chart. This is where the eclipses have been occurring since the end of 2021. So at the end of 2021, we started a new story, and this story had the topics of things covered by Taurus and Scorpio, namely things like money, things like superficiality, things like intimacy, and things like work. Okay, so those four topics, and that's a very vague and general sort of broad overview of what those two signs cover. Those topics were playing out in our lives in a particular sort of way, right? It all depends on where it's going down in your particular natal chart. But those flavors have been playing out and have been simmering since the end of 2021. And so now the lunar nodes are getting ready to shift signs. In July, they're going to be moving to Aries and Libra. So we're in this period right now where we are at the final chapter of a particular story in our lives. So think back to 2021, the end of 21, specifically October to be exact. Something may have begun at that time, and that story has been playing out in various ways since then, especially around the time of the eclipse. And so I say all of that to say that this eclipse may not be, or this eclipse that just occurred may not feel so crazy because it's kind of ending things. It's losing steam. It's winding down. We're getting ready to close this chapter. I think we're getting ready to close a particular book in our lives, and we're getting ready to start a whole new story. So again, think about what's been playing out in your life since the end of 2021. Perhaps some major things happened, and it's kind of time to close that book. It's time to move on to a new chapter. And so this is a really great time while we're in between eclipses, right? This is a really great time for some reflection. It may be a time to see how far you've come. It may be a time to assess how much work there's left to do, but it's definitely a great time for some reflection. Okay. And so that's how we're entering May. Okay. And so then at the top of the month, we've got another eclipse. And this is the last eclipse in Scorpio. Remember, I just said the eclipses have been going off in Taurus and Scorpio since the end of 2021. This eclipse going down the first week of May is the last one in Scorpio. So wherever Scorpio is in your chart, this is where the universe is probably going to put an exclamation point or a period or maybe even a question mark, right? A question that maybe you have to answer in the coming months or maybe even in the coming years. But again, we're closing down a cycle, all right? And I'm thankful that this chapter that's closing, I feel like for many of us, it is closing with a note of clarity. I think that many of us have gotten clear on what we need to do. Maybe some of us have gotten clear on what we no longer need to do. And I feel like the universe is giving us the information. It's giving us the advice. It's giving us the resources. It's having us do that emotional cleanup one last time so that we can close this chapter and move on. So it's a month that's going to be punctuated with some very interesting energy. All right. Now, apart from the eclipses, we've got, sort of your typical run of the mill kind of astrological transits. But this month, it's going to be a little different because we have quite a few of them. Okay. So we've got 2 planets changing directions. And we've got 4 planets if you include the sun, changing signs. So we're going to be going in different directions in some parts of our lives. And in other parts of our lives, we're going to start experiencing different facets of different situations. Meaning that, let's say, you've got Gemini as your 4th house. Okay. And with the sun going into Gemini, this is going to ignite family issues, right? But maybe not family in the way that, let's say, Venus in Gemini focuses on family, right? Because Venus is going to be in Gemini, at least for the beginning of the month. So Venus in Gemini has you focusing on your family relationships, okay, right? Your relationship with your close family members, particularly your parents, right? Or specifically your mother. With the sun in Gemini, this is going to highlight how we communicate with our family. So it still sort of focuses on relationships, but a different facet of them, meaning how we communicate, how we relate to other people, the thoughts that we have with respect to family, or maybe even respect to home or lineage and things like that. So with these energy shifts, they're either going to ignite certain areas of our life, turn certain areas of our lives around, or require us to look inward rather than looking outward, or vice versa. Okay, so that's what we've got in store for May. All right, never a dull moment around here, especially when we're talking about astrology. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the nitty gritty and see exactly what we've got going on for May. All right. So we start off the month with Pluto going retrograde. Now, this is kind of a big deal because Pluto just made a major energy shift into Aquarius back in March. This was like the quintessential event of the year. Now, Pluto's going to be going backward, relatively speaking, and Pluto's going to make its way back into Capricorn. So Pluto's going to be backtracking and cleaning up anything that it didn't get to do the first time around, which is always interesting, right? Then we've got that lunar eclipse in Scorpio. I was just talking about that's going down the first week of May. Then we've got Venus moving from Gemini into Cancer. Then Mercury is going to be going direct in Taurus. Hallelujah. Especially if Mercury retrograde has been wreaking havoc on your life, you're going to get some much needed, what's the word I'm looking for? Relief. Okay. Come mid-month. Okay. Then Jupiter is going to be making its way into Taurus. So Jupiter's been hanging out in Aries for quite some time. And now for the rest of the year, Jupiter is going to be in Taurus. And the energy is quite different, okay? But in a good way. Then we've got the new moon of the month, which is going down in the sign of Taurus, all right? And so you're also going to want to pay attention to where, I said this before when I was talking about the eclipses, but definitely pay attention to where Taurus and Gemini are in your natal chart. These are the areas of life that are going to be heavily emphasized in May, all right? Then we've got Mars moving into Leo, which is a much better placement for Mars. Mars was in Cancer for the last month and change, and Mars was not happy about that. But the fact that Mars is now moving into a fire sign is going to make Mars feel very good, which can only mean one thing: things are going to heat up, all right? And then finally, we end the month with a new season as the sun will be moving into the sign of Gemini. So we're going to say goodbye to Taurus and hello to Mixie and sociable Gemini. All right, so let's get into it and discuss. So first up, we've got Pluto going retrograde in Aquarius. This is going down on May 1st. So we start off the month, boom, with a retrograde. So here's the thing. When we're talking about Pluto retrograde, it's one of those things where because Pluto was so far away, it doesn't have the same, well, Pluto's a different planet. It has a different energy signature, so it would never be the same as Mercury retrograde. But the reason why we feel Mercury retrograde so intensely becomes such a major or prominent thing in our lives is because Mercury is very close to Earth. It's a personal planet, so we feel it very personally. Now, Pluto was very far away. It is the farthest planet, although scientifically speaking, it is no longer a planet, but it is the farthest celestial body away from the Earth, all right? So it's not a personal planet. So when it goes retrograde, we don't necessarily feel it all that intensely. However, because Pluto is a very intense planet in and of itself, it allows us, we feel it in a very profound way. It's not, I want you to think of it in terms like this. Like Mercury has a lot to do with our thoughts, right? Our conscious mind. And that's why we feel it so intensely. That's part of the reason why we feel it so intensely. However, Pluto is all about what lies beneath the surface. So things could be changing rapidly under the surface and you're just not consciously aware of it. And that's sort of how Pluto retrograde works for us, like on an individual level. Because Pluto is a generational planet, the changes that Pluto's transit through the sky affects, or the changes that Pluto retrograde has on society, like that's where we see it play out. We see it play out in the larger picture of humanity, right? But we also feel it intensely because it's underneath the surface. I mean, think of it this way. There's a lot going on in our bodies, right? We've got our heart pumping, we've got blood pulsing through our veins, we have cellular division all the time, right? But you have no consciousness of it. It's going on in your body. You can't see it, although sometimes you can feel it. But it's this intense and profound change on the inside. And that's exactly how Pluto works generally. But more so, that's how Pluto retrograde works. Pluto is all about transformation. And so when we're talking about Pluto retrograde, we're taking the energy of transformation and we are directing it inward, or we can direct it inward. So this means that the changes that we need to make on the very even molecular level is what we can do when Pluto is retrograde. So this is the time when you want to comb the recesses of your psyche, where you want to do shadow work. Pluto retrograde is excellent for shadow work. This is the time when you really want to go within and find your inner power. Because apart from transformation, Pluto also governs the idea or the concept of power and control. And so when Pluto is retrograde, we have a chance to empower ourselves from the inside out. And so sometimes empowering ourselves requires us to make major changes in our lives, okay? It may require us to consciously think about what we no longer need, right? Pluto also represents the phoenix rising from the ashes. And so that means that maybe there are things in our lives that we need to set fire to, that we need to burn down in order to rise again triumphantly and ultimately better. And so this is the essence of Pluto retrograde. Now, Pluto is going to be retrograde in Aquarius in May. However, next month in June, Pluto is going to return back to Capricorn. So for this month, since Pluto is going retrograde on the first day, we've got the entire month of May to be introspective and to focus on transformation from the inside out as it relates to Aquarian type things. And Aquarian type things are things that are intellectual. It's Aquarius energy is about humanity. It's about working together. It's about group think. It's about brainstorming. It's about finding your tribe. But most importantly, it's about standing out. It's about finding people who resonate on the same wavelength as you, right? And so this is what you may want to focus on. Now, because Pluto is retrograde and we're taking that energy and we're using it introspectively, this may be a time where you want to figure out, well, what wavelength am I vibing on? Like, what do I resonate with? What am I holding on to that's standing in my way? Like, I want to do this. I want to be here. I want to accomplish this, right? Because Aquarius is also very future thinking. So anytime you have planets in Aquarius, it sort of directs our attention to the future, at least thinking about the future. And so in thinking about the future and using that Pluto retrograde energy introspectively is like, all right, what do I want my future to look like? And what do I need to change in my life in order to have the future that I envision? What do I need to set fire to in my life so that I can build anew? Okay. And I don't mean physically set a fire. I'm sure you know that, but you never know. Sometimes you really have to spell things out for people. But what can I get rid of? What no longer serves me? What is like, it's almost like finding something that's rotting, right? And pulling it out. What within you is rotting? What in your life is rotten that you can get rid of, so that you can finally grow and regenerate and move forward into the future? So this is what Pluto retrograde in Aquarius is going to be asking of us. All right. Good stuff. Definitely good stuff. All right. Let's see. So that was Pluto retrograde. And so now after that, we've got the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, and this is going down on May 5th. So on the 1st, we've got Pluto retrograde, and then on May 5th, we've got the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So just by way of technical jargon, right? So a solar eclipse happens at the new moon when the moon and the sun are conjunct. A lunar eclipse happens at the full moon when the sun and the moon are opposite, okay? And so lunar eclipse in Scorpio is when the sun is in Taurus and the moon is in Scorpio. And so lunar eclipses are very eye-opening. The fact that the sun and the moon are opposite suggests that we have some sort of extreme in our life. Now, if we're talking about Taurus and Scorpio, the axis of Taurus and Scorpio covers my money versus our money, right? My money is Taurus, our money is Scorpio. Superficiality, aka Taurus, versus depth and substance, aka Scorpio, okay? Keeping things surface level, aka Taurus. Intimacy, aka Scorpio. You get what I mean, right? You get what I'm saying. So this is the axis that we are working with. And so full moons generally illuminate things, particularly things that have been hidden. So if you have an imbalance along this axis, especially when it comes to things like finances, right? This is going to be highlighted at the full moon. However, because this is an eclipse, rather than shining a flashlight on this imbalance, the universe is going to, in Batman, the bat signal, that big floodlight thing, that's what the universe is going to be shining on this particular imbalance, okay? Now, full moons don't always signify an imbalance. Full moons not only illuminate things, but they also signify the culmination of things. So this may be a time where something comes to an end, and whatever that something is may have to do with finances, or it may have to do with work, or it may have to do with intimacy, right? Again, it all depends on where it's going down in your particular chart. However, this could be a time where you're experiencing a culmination, a crescendo, an ending of some sort. And the fact that we are at the final chapters of this particular eclipse, I don't know what to call it because it's 18 months. So this eclipse scenario, for lack of a better phrase, it's like things are wrapping up. So I wouldn't be surprised if many people are experiencing some sort of an ending, especially because we just had Pluto going retrograde, and the ruler of Scorpio is Pluto, and Pluto represents death and rebirth. So this may be a time of death and rebirth for you, again, depending on where this is going down in your chart. So it may signify some endings. It may be kind of emotional, right? But maybe not. But more so than anything, this eclipse is going to be eye-opening, all right? So let's talk about the general flavor of this eclipse. All right. So it's going down at 1:33 p.m. on May 5th. That's 1:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's going down at 14 degrees Scorpio. Okay. So Scorpio energy in general, it's deep, it's substantive, it's emotional, it's intense, and it's truth seeking. Okay. So the things that lie underneath the surface are going to be exposed and illuminated with this full moon lunar eclipse. All right. So the number 5 is going to be important because the eclipse is going down at the 14th degree of Scorpio. 1 and 4 makes 5. So the numerology of this particular eclipse is 5. And 5 is the number of change. It's the number of curiosity. It's where things pivot. It requires us to be adaptable. So we may have some sort of ending that may require us to shift gears. It may require us to pivot and go in a new direction. It may require us to take a new plan of action when it comes to something. And this change may be because whatever precedes this change may be ending in a fairly permanent sort of way. Again, we are closing the chapter and we're getting ready to close the book on this particular eclipse series. So remain flexible, and not just because this is going down at, it's not just because the numerology of this particular eclipse is going down, that it's 5. It's also because the eclipse is going to be opposite, the moon, I should say, is going to be opposite to Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is all about change. It's all about unpredictability. It's about expecting the unexpected. And it's about breaking out of the mold. Okay. So I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, because you can never tell what's exactly going to happen when Uranus is in the mix. Anything could possibly happen. But what I will say is that in some way, shape, or form, I feel like there's going to be a somewhat permanent ending to something that's going to require you to shift. And this shift is going to be is going to have you doing something, having something, working towards something that is remarkably different than what you were doing before. And when I say remarkably different, this could be a major life change, but it could also be something kind of subtle, right? Because again, everything about Scorpio is under the surface. It's not anything that's really exposed. It's not anything that's very apparent. It's more about things that are latent, right? This may be a new way of thinking. This may be a new way of acting. This may be a new way in which you believe about yourself. Subtle changes on the inside that can affect major change on the outside. Because if we're talking about a change to your subconscious, a change to how you believe in yourself, a change to how you think about yourself, or how you think about certain things, that mindset shift is what's going to shift things in your immediate reality. So it may not be some major external event that causes this disruption. It may be something subtle as feeling better about yourself. Finally conquering negative self-talk. It could be thinking about your partner in a slightly different way. Understand that small change on the inside can make a major change on the outside. Let's take the example of a partner, for example. Our partners are really just a reflection of us. Our relationships in general are really just a reflection of us. And if you have this belief that your partner is lazy and your partner doesn't want to work, for example, let's say that this eclipse, through the series of events that have been going down since the end of 2021, you've started to shift at how you see your partner. Maybe they're not lazy. Maybe they're just not being challenged. Or maybe they're going through something that makes them not want to work. Maybe they're slightly depressed or something like that. You've come to this realization and you're like, wow, my partner isn't really lazy. My partner's just going through something, or they're at a point in their life where they need a major shakeup, right? They're not being challenged enough. That simple change in your mindset and in your beliefs is going to have your partner showing up much differently. In that particular scenario, don't be surprised if your partner starts acting different, starts working more. They don't appear, they're not necessarily just sitting around on the couch all day. Like, the little change that you have in your mindset and your beliefs is going to be reflected back to you via your partner. And so, again, I say all of this to say that, when I say expect the unexpected and, Scorpio and Pluto, it's all about major changes. Keep in mind, those major changes are not always external. It's not like you're always going to get in some car accident or the love of your life is going to propose to you. It's not always external. A lot of times it's internal, but that internal is what helps shape the external. All right. So expect the unexpected, but keep an open mind. And that saying, like, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Same thing goes with the universe. When the universe shows you something, believe it. If the universe is showing you, hey, maybe you need to take a course, or hey, maybe you need to meditate more, or hey, maybe you need to do this, that, and the third, believe it. That's the thing about eclipses, especially lunar eclipses. They're eye-opening. A lot of times it really opens the gates for spirit and the universe to really communicate with you. So whatever you're seeing, be receptive. Whatever you're hearing, whatever is going on, be receptive to it and believe it. Because this is going to be a point of change. It may not be life-shattering change. It may not be really profound changes that, your life is never going to be the same again. But this is a point where something in your life is going to change, and probably for the better. All right. So definitely keep that in mind with the eclipse. All right. Let's keep it moving. So next up, we've got Venus moving into Cancer. So throughout April, Venus has been in Gemini. I believe in the beginning of April, Venus was in Taurus, and then Venus moved into Gemini. In Gemini, Venus is real mixy. If you've watched any of my lives or my videos, you know I always describe Gemini energy as mixy. It's all over the place. It's social butterfly. It's all of that stuff, right? So Venus was kind of moving and shaking, doing her thing, very social, very much into friends and talking to people when she was in Gemini. Now that Venus is moving into Cancer, it's a whole other flavor of Venus. This is when Venus becomes softer. Venus becomes more nurturing, more loving, more tender, more affectionate. Like it's very much, I call it love and devotion. If you have Venus in Cancer natally, meaning that in your natal chart you got Venus in Cancer, devotion is a big thing to you. Venus in Cancer gives me like Mary vibes, like Mary, Mother of Jesus vibes. Very devoted, very nurturing. It just gives mother vibes, period. Okay. It's also very protective. What Venus in Cancer is great for is because Cancer is a cardinal sign. This is where you can start something, but you nurture it. Like think of literally planting a seed. And Venus in Cancer is watering it. It's putting it on the windowsill to get sunlight. It's talking to it. It's being loving and devoted to the development of that thing. Okay. So Venus in Cancer is great for that, especially when it comes to relationships and when it comes to money. You know, I'm about to go off on another tangent, so get comfortable. Money is a weird thing. Okay, because the way that we are conditioned to treat it, to want it, to desire it is kind of different from what it really is. Money is an energy, right? And it takes on the characteristics of energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? It just changes form. And money is, okay, so to think about money, we have to think about the archetype of Venus. Venus is attractive. Venus, like everybody in Greek mythology, everybody loved Venus for her beauty. She was gorgeous, right? She could be manipulative because people were infatuated with her. People were attracted and drawn to her, right? She could also be very vindictive. There was an ugly side to Venus that I think most people don't really talk about enough. But money is kind of the same. It's an energy. And energy matches energy. So if when it comes to money, you are fearful, you've got lack mentality, you think that money is evil, you think it's this thing, like it's just, that's what you're going to attract more of. Venus in Cancer allows you to love on money and have money love you back, right? It all depends on where this is going down in your chart. But generally speaking, Venus in Cancer is great for nurturing money. Money loves to be with you. Money loves to stay with you. Money is attracted to you, right? You take care of money and money takes care of you. If you practice those affirmations, especially in the mirror work is super important, but I'm going to do a whole separate video on that. But if that's the ideology that you are embracing, especially when Venus is in Cancer, watch your money situation change. What you nurture grows with everything, including money. So Venus in Cancer is great for that. Okay. It's about being warm. It's about being loving. You see how I'm talking, right? Venus in Gemini is like, yo, what's going on? Let's go here. Let's go there. Let's talk this. Let's do that. Venus in Cancer is like, what do you want to do? I don't know. Do you want to watch TV? Do you want to just chill at home? I don't know. Let's talk about a savings planner. You see what I mean? Venus in Cancer is all about loving and nurturing and devotion to whatever you want to nurture, right? But particularly relationships and money. This is that touchy-feely energy when it comes to relationships, okay? This is showing love, maybe through physical touch, very much through emotions, being sensitive, being vulnerable, right? All of these things thrive when Venus is in Cancer, okay? But more importantly, Cancer represents our basic emotional needs. And of course, love and acceptance are among those. So that may be a focus for you when Venus is in Cancer, okay? This is, oh, hey, Liz, what's going on? I also see Patricia Jean up in the house. Hello, hello. You're going to be experiencing your Venus return. That I love. Venus returns are always really nice. It can have you feeling really good. It has a focus on relationships and money, two of the things that we love to talk about as people. It's a great time, Venus return. But yeah, feeling safe and secure are also hallmarks of Cancerian energy. And so when it comes to love, when it comes to money, when it comes to nurturing things, we do these things to have a feeling of security and safety for the most part. And so those two things, or just your basic emotional needs in general, may be the focus while Venus is in Cancer, right? It's kind of a really dope transit, I think. All right, let's keep it moving. All right. So next up, we've got Mercury going direct in Taurus, and that's going down on May 14th. All right. So not much to explain about this. Mercury has been in Taurus for a little bit, but it just went retrograde last week, I believe, if I can remember correctly. And so Mercury retrograde in Taurus, this is about all the redoing, rethinking, recalibrating. It can be a time of rest and slowing down. But Taurus, being ruled by Venus, a lot to do with stability, has a lot to do with security, has a lot to do with money and finances, and putting in that work. So this is a time where you can redo things. For example, I believe it was the day that Mercury went retrograde, I started redoing my website and I've been loving it. I've been finding things that I can improve upon, and I'm really putting in the work on a daily basis to completely revamp my website. Okay. And the link to that is in the description box below if you want to check it out. But it's a time to redo things, especially when it comes to finances, business, career, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah. And then we also have the typical Mercury retrograde shenanigans, right? Your phone is acting up, your computer's acting up, internet's acting up, the train or the bus is late, your car got a flat tire, your toaster caught fire. All of those kind of things happen when Mercury is retrograde. So finally, after 3 somewhat long weeks of being retrograde, Mercury will go direct in Taurus. And that will happen on the 14th. And then it'll kind of be smooth sailing. We'll have a little bit more time to focus on Taurus things. So this is the time when, we may still be focusing on money, getting work done, building foundations, all of that stuff. And then Mercury will make its way into Gemini in June. All right. So that's Mercury direct. And then next up, we've got Jupiter in Taurus. This is kind of a big deal because Jupiter changes signs about every 6 months. So for the last 6 months, Jupiter has been in Aries, okay? And Jupiter in Aries, the phrase that I associate with that transit is fortune favors the bold. If you're willing to take a risk, especially on something you've never done before, Jupiter in Aries is going to bless it. That's where you're going to find your abundance. Got to be a little risky, got to be a little bold, got to want to start something new, okay? Now, Jupiter in Taurus is a very different flavor. Jupiter in Taurus is a lot slower. It's a lot less dynamic than Jupiter in Aries. It's more about stabilizing the energy rather than just starting anew. And it makes us a bit realistic. Here's the thing with Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's also the planet of excess. Jupiter allows us to see far and wide. It allows us to see the big picture. Jupiter allows us to get a 30,000 foot view of whatever we're talking about, right? And so in Aries, we're seeing the big picture. We're like, all right, let's use the example of running a marathon. Jupiter in Aries is like, you wake up one day and you're like, I am going to run a marathon. Okay. And you're like, I'm so hyped about this. I really want to do this. You go and you buy some new running gear, you buy some new sneakers, and you start researching what diet. You start putting together a workout routine and a training schedule, and you're off to the races, right? And then you quickly realize that a marathon is 26 motherfucking miles. And you're like, what was I thinking? Like, this is a lot, right? Now, here's the thing though. If you did that with Jupiter and Aries is like, all right, boom, like I see you. I see what you're doing. Yes, I got you. Guess what? I'm going to give you some money so you can get a trainer so that this trainer can help you. Now, Jupiter's moving into Taurus and your enthusiasm, your motivation has definitely worn off. And you're like, yeah, I don't think I can do this. Jupiter is still hyping you up. Jupiter is like, remember the big picture. The big picture is that we are going to run this marathon. And if you will continue with what you are doing, everything that you started while Jupiter was in Aries, the training, the diet, the working with the trainer, Jupiter is like, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to bless you as you keep working. But you have to be realistic about this. When Jupiter was in Aries, it's like, yes, a marathon, this sounds great. And you're picturing yourself taking a selfie at the finish line, drenched in sweat, talking about, yes, I did it. Jupiter in Taurus is like, all right, we got to still work. We've got work to do. And practically speaking, we need to come up with some kind of routine. We need to come up with some kind of consistency to keep working towards that bigger picture. That is where you're going to find the blessings. That's where you're going to find the abundance. I feel like throughout Taurus season, through the videos I've been doing or through the lives I've been doing while the sun has been in Taurus or whatever, I feel like the word that I use the most is work. Because that is Taurus. Think about in the olden days, right? When they had, I always get the picture of the bull with the wooden thing on its neck and it's dragging the whatever it is behind it to turn over the soil. And it will just do that back and forth through a large field, right? The bull knows that the shit has to get done. I mean, frankly speaking, I think the bull would probably get whipped if it didn't do it, but that's besides the point. The point is that during Taurus season, we're reminded in a very practical way that we've got work to do. And that work is not as sexy. It's not as exciting. It's not as dynamic as what it seemed like when we first thought of it or when we first started during Aries season. But we got to keep going. Remember, Jupiter is all about the bigger picture. So yes, you will, provided that you keep doing the work, you will take that selfie at the finish line after having ran 26 motherfucking miles, right? But there's a lot of training before you can get to that finish line. And Jupiter and Taurus will reward you for that. That is where your abundance lies. Here's the thing. The bigger picture is, yes, we're going to run this marathon. But with us doing this work consistently, really building the foundation, getting up every day and running, even when we're tired, even when we don't want to, guess what? We're going to sleep better. We're going to lose weight. So we're going to look better. Our body is going to be healthier, especially if we're on a diet plan. We're just going to have overall better health. Better health equals better mental clarity, a better mental state. A better mental state allows you to manifest. So every day you're getting up to run, you're training, you're dieting. But guess what? That new client that you wanted, it materialized. You wanted more money, that came too. You wanted means to get a new car? Wow, that's in the works. Guess what? Because all of these things are a result of the hard work that you're putting in, right? That's how Jupiter's blessing you with Jupiter in Taurus, all right? So I want you to keep that in mind, especially if Jupiter in Aries had you amped about something. Especially if Jupiter in Aries was like, yo, we're about to do this. We're about to do this big. And you're like, yeah, I feel good. Now Jupiter in Taurus is like, fuck, I really have to do this work. Like, this goal is a lot farther than I thought it was going to be. This goal requires a lot more. Keep doing the work. Jupiter will reward you. That is where your abundance lies. It lies in doing the work. All right. And all of that begins on May 16th, if I didn't say that already. Okay. All right. Let's see what we got up next. All right, next up, we've got the new moon of the month, which is going down in the sign of Taurus. So this is going down on May 19th. So this is not an eclipse. It's just a regular new moon, okay? And so new moons are pretty simple. New moons are when we plant new seeds and set new intentions, okay? And in Taurus, with a new moon in Taurus, we're going to set new intentions around Taurus things. Now, I'm about to go on a little tangent again, so get comfortable. Manifestation is like the buzzword right now, right? If you've been on this spiritual journey, you've known about manifestation for a minute, right? For someone like me, I've been on my spiritual journey for over 10 years now. And I'll tell you one thing. 5 years ago, no one was talking about manifestation like they are now. Everyone talks about manifestation. Even the church talks about manifestation. That's how you know shit is getting corny when the church and the government start talking about it, right? But whatever. I digress. Manifestation is really sexy, right? Because it puts the power in your own hands. You are like, I can make anything happen, and you can. Like, that's no bullshit. Like, it's true. However, what I believe, and you may not believe this, and you don't have to. I'm not trying to force my beliefs on anyone, but it is not all the time that you're going to be manifesting certain things. Like, if you want a boo, there's a certain time to manifest that. Working with nature is always much easier than working against it. You can work against it, but it's just going to be harder, right? Every season is good for manifesting things having to do with that season. We are not in boo season, okay? Even though Venus, which is the ruler of Taurus, rules relationships, Taurus is not so much about relationships. Taurus is about things. It's more so about money than relationships. We're not in boo season. So when I say at the Taurus new moon, that's when you plant new seeds and set intentions, you can manifest a boo. You can work on manifesting a boo if you want to. Like, that's your business. But it's much easier to try to manifest things that go with the season, like money, right? Also, it's not always the time that we're manifesting money. When the new moon is in Cancer, money is not necessarily the thing, right? But in Taurus, it is. So with the new moon in Taurus, you may want to focus on your finances. Also, you want to take a look at your natal chart to see what the hell Taurus covers anyway, right? Because Taurus may not even really cover finances in the traditional way that you're thinking about it. If you've got Taurus in the 9th house, this may be, it could be money, right? It could be money for law school. It could be money for going on a trip. It may not be the money itself is what I'm saying, but there's an undercurrent of money, right? So you're going to want to focus on things that you want to build, things that are valuable to you. Whatever you deem valuable, whatever you deem important in your life, this may be when you want to plant those seeds and set those intentions. Okay. And then as time goes on, you're going to continue to work on this manifestation, at least until the next new moon. But regardless, new moon in Taurus, this is when you're going to plant new seeds and set new intentions for Taurus-like things. All right. And that's going down on the 19th. And then next up, we've got Mars in Leo. Okay. Now, this I like because for the last month, we've had Mars in Cancer, and Mars in Cancer is crabby. And no pun intended, Mars in Cancer is uncomfortable. Think of that Aries energy I was talking about, wanting to do things in a big and bold way, start something new. It's like Cancer puts a wet blanket on all of that. So Mars is uncomfortable. Mars can't express itself the way that it wants to when it is in Cancer. But now Mars is moving into Leo, a fire sign. And so Mars is going to thrive in this fire sign. Okay. With Mars in Leo, where are we? There we are. Mars in Leo is going to give people an inflated ego. Leo is all about confidence. It's all about pride. And with Mars being that firecracker, this is when people's egos are going to be inflated. This is when people are really going to be in their ego, if I'm being honest. Leo also has this penchant for drama. Leo loves to be the center of attention. It's like Leo is the star of the show, right? And so everything has to have a dramatic flair to it. Now, keep in mind with Mars in Leo, this is a perfect storm for people popping off, right? Because people are already in their ego. People are really feeling themselves. They feel like their shit don't stink and they're with the shits, right? So that being said, be mindful of how you express yourself. And I don't mean that to say that you should dim your light or that you shouldn't express yourself to the fullest extent. Just understand that in expressing yourself, that may really bother people. Like it may really bring out the haters. It may really bring out people who, again, want to pop off, or people who feel threatened by your confidence, people who feel insecure around you. Okay. It's definitely, Mars and Leo is definitely a hotbed for that. So keep that in mind. I pretty much feel like that is the essence of Mars in Leo. It's having this passion for life, having an increased sex drive. Again, just being very dramatic, being very, look at me. Leo is very attention seeking. And with Mars being a planet that has this energy signature of focusing on oneself, there is going to be, it's like everyone's going to be focused on themselves. Everyone's going to be focused on what they want. Everyone's going to want the attention. Everyone's going to want to feel like the star of the show. Okay. And so for some, that may be really great, right? Because if you're someone who may not be as confident, if you're someone who is, or who struggles to really find the confidence to express yourself authentically, I feel like this particular transit is going to give you a little boost. It's going to make it a little easier for you to do so. However, for people who already are comfortable with that, it's like that's going to go from like a 6 to a 10. And so that can breed contempt with other people. That can breed problems. It can bring confrontation because, again, I feel like people are really going to be in their ego. They're going to want all the attention and they're going to feel some kind of way if you don't give them the attention or if you take the attention away from them. Okay, so Mars is always ready to fight. Mars is always ready to defend itself. Okay. And so that's how people are going to feel with Mars and Leo. So again, never a dull moment, especially when we're talking about astrology. All right. So that's that. And then we close out the month with a new season. So on the 21st, the sun is going to be moving into Gemini and we are going to be moving into a new season. All right. So the energy of work, the energy of values, the energy of practicality and down to earth is going to dissipate and we're going to move into a season of mixiness. It's not that I don't like Gemini energy. Some of my favorite people are Geminis. But it can be very fickle. It can be very all over the place. Imagine you are someone who your communication style is substantive. Maybe you've got like Mercury in Scorpio, right? And you're not about shooting the shit. You're really not about superficial talk, right? But then you've got someone close to you who's like a Mercury in Gemini or a Gemini sun, and they don't want to talk about anything substantive. They want to keep shit light. They're always changing the subject. They're always out and about. Like one thing I will say is that every Gemini I know stay in the streets. They belong to the streets, and not in a bad way. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but they like to be out. Gemini is the social butterfly of the zodiac. So these are people who have a lot of friends, who know a lot of people. They've got the gift of gab. But what I love about Geminis is that they're extremely witty. Their sense of humor can be very intelligent, right? They can be a little trickster-ish, right? They have this sort of youthful energy to them that can be a little mixy, a little trickster-ish, which can be fun sometimes, right? Gemini energy reminds us that we don't live in a bubble. Reminds us that we need to communicate with people. Communication is what kind of makes the world go round. To be able to relate to other people is a basic human function, and nobody knows this better than Gemini. And so during Gemini season, it's really a time when we reach out and touch someone. When we communicate with other people. It's also a time when we learn things. Gemini, the typical textbook definition of Gemini is that they have an insatiable curiosity. They love to learn things. They're curious about the world, and they're willing to research and learn about specific things. And so Sun in Gemini is great for learning, especially learning specific things. So if you want to learn investing, if you want to learn more about crypto, Sun in Gemini is a great time to do that. If you want to learn more about e-commerce, because Gemini also has the energy of trade and commerce. So it's not so much just doing business in the general sense, it's doing business transaction wise. I sell you this, you buy this from me. That kind of exchange, that energy exchange with money is ruled by Gemini. The marketplace is ruled by Gemini. So if you want to learn about those things, Sun in Gemini is the perfect time to do that. Because again, just like it's not that we're going to manifest the boo all the time, like there's a certain season to manifest the boo. There's certain seasons to learn things, or where it's more conducive to learn certain things. And so that kind of, e-commerce, trade, any technical specific skills, it's a great time to learn about those things when the sun is in Gemini. But more than anything, and above all else, Gemini season is about socializing. This is the time to get out of your shell. Right here in the Northern Hemisphere, it is spring during Gemini season. The weather is getting better. It's nicer. We've passed the spring equinox and daylight savings, so there's more daylight hours. Like, this is the time for you to really get out. You've been cooped inside all winter. This is a time for you to spread your wings like the butterfly and hop from flower to flower, talking to different people and learning different things. So by and large, Gemini season can be really fun if you allow it to be, but you got to be social. You got to put yourself out there. And most importantly, you have to communicate with other people, right? That's going down on the 21st. And that is how we end the month. All right. So May, a lot of stuff going on, as you can probably tell, right? Between the eclipse, between retrogrades, between planets changing signs, there's a lot going on, but it's never a bad thing. Energy shifts ultimately take us where we need to be. And so that's definitely what May has in store for us. All right. So now let's get to the fun part. Let's pull some cards for each sign for the month of May. All right. So I do these by sign, but if you watch any of my other lives, you'll know that this is just whatever resonates, whether it's your sun, your moon, your rising, your north node, your Venus, your Mars, whatever. If the message resonates, it resonates. Okay. And another announcement. So I will no longer be doing the individual sign videos from I was doing for a little while. Every month I was doing the astrology and pulling cards for each sign in a separate video. I will no longer be doing that. Number one, because it takes a lot of work and energy. And number two, to be honest, people weren't really feeling it like that. People weren't really watching that. So I won't be doing that anymore. If you're interested in finding out what, the month has for you, I highly suggest that you schedule an astrology consultation with me where we can either go over your solar return or do a personal horoscope for either the month or the quarter, so you can find out exactly what's going on for you. And the links to those will be in the description box below. But going forward, I'm just going to be doing these lives with the monthly astro forecast once a month, and I'll be pulling cards for each sign. So that's what it is. All right. So let's start with Aries. Start at the beginning, and we start with Aries. So let's see what we got for Aries for the month of May. All right, Aries, we've got the World. We've got the World and we've got the Chariot. All right, Aries, there is definitely a cycle that is ending. You are saying bye to a complete chapter and you are moving on. I'm hearing like you're getting out of Dodge. Like you're definitely moving forward in a very kind of forceful kind of way. It's almost like, and I'm not getting the sense that this chapter that's closing is a bad thing. I feel like you are so pumped and ready to move on to the next thing. So you are doing that, and you're doing that in a major way. For some, I'm hearing that you may be traveling in May. It may be like a road trip or someplace where you can drive, but I definitely see you going on a trip. And this trip may be to end something. Maybe you're moving. Maybe you have some business that you need to tie up some loose ends, and then you're moving on to a different state or to a different city. But regardless, you are definitely moving on from a situation, and it could be just generally speaking, or it could be like physically, like you're literally moving away. But I get the sense that you feel really good about this. You feel accomplished. You feel like you're ready to start a new chapter. So you're feeling good about this. All right. That was Aries. So now we move on to Taurus. Let's see what we've got for Taurus for May. Oh, okay, Taurus. We've got the Ace of Cups. So you are going to be replenished. This could be in the relationship sector. Taurus, these eclipses, especially if you are a Taurus rising, these eclipses have been going down in your first and your seventh house. So that's the house of self and the house of relationships. So you may be closing a chapter where one relationship ends and a new begins, or this is an existing relationship that's just going to be replenished. I see a lot of happy emotions. I see feeling good, feeling happy, feeling fulfilled. And what I love is that the presence of the dove in this cup and the presence of this hand lets me know that this is the universe at work. You know, a lot of times, especially in relationships, we get ahead of spirit. We decide we want this person, we want this kind of relationship, and we jump in, even when it's not for our highest good. But for you, Taurus, this relationship, whether it's new or existing, it's like sponsored by spirit. So it's right in alignment with where you need to go, who you're becoming, what you're trying to accomplish in life. So I see some really good stuff happening with this particular relationship. And for that, I say congratulations. Enjoy it. You definitely deserve it. All right. Next up, we've got Gemini. Let's see what we've got for Gemini. Oh, all right, Gemini. We've got the Knight of Wands. You are fired up about something. As I'm saying this, I'm getting extremely hot. Like you are so passionate. I'm about to be a little X-rated right now, especially if you are someone that has a penis. You could see what this card looks like. All right. Like you are really feeling somebody right now. So you are very excited, very turned on. Like someone really has your attention. Yeah, that kind of attention. And I feel like you are heading straight to this person. Spirit is like, we understand your enthusiasm and we understand your passion and your desire, but please don't come off as a creep or overly aggressive. There's a tone. I'm not going to say tone it down a bit, but be mindful of how you approach this person. Because I'm getting that apart from just being like sexually aroused, I feel like there are feelings there too. There's a certain amount of romance. It's more than just sex for you. But if you come off very strong, you may come off as only wanting sex or only after a sexual relationship. And I get the sense that that's not what you want. So be mindful with how you approach this person. Don't lead with sex. But I see this being a very exciting relationship or an exciting encounter with someone. And it's going to feel very romantic, romance novel kind of thing. So yeah, enjoy it. But yeah, just don't be a creep about it. All right. Next up, we've got Cancer. Let's see what we've got for Cancer. All right, Cancer, we've got Temperance. So there's something that you need to practice moderation with. Something is being worked on your behalf. It's like Spirit is kind of putting in the work. Spirit is mixing things together for you. Let's pull another card and see what this is about. You're asked to be patient at this time, and you're asked to like practice moderation. Okay. Yeah, we've got the Hermit. So there is some inner enlightenment that you are about to receive. Some of you, you've really been almost like a hermit in a cave. Like you've been almost like a recluse. Maybe you haven't been going out as much. It's almost like you've really been in your shell. And spirit is like, you know, we kind of put you in this position for a reason. There's a certain amount of enlightenment. There's a certain amount of personal development that you needed to undergo that you had to do by yourself, which is why you're sort of in this hermit mode. But spirit is like, we're working on things, right? We see you working on yourself. We're putting in some work behind the scenes so that when you re-emerge from your shell, when you re-emerge from this hermit period, you're going to be moving a lot better and a lot differently. I get the sense that before you went into this hermit mode, you may have been dissatisfied with life. You may have been dissatisfied with a very particular situation in your life. And spirit was like, all right, I need you to take a time out, regroup. And then when you come back, you're going to come back better. And I feel like that's what's going on this month. This may be a month where you're getting ready to emerge, although I don't think that you're going to be necessarily emerging this month. I still feel like there's still some tweaks that need to be done, still some personal development. Maybe you're tying up loose ends with respect to that. So may be a little quiet for you. Maybe a time when you're home a lot and when you're really just focusing on yourself. But this is in preparation for you to re-emerge better. All right. So enjoy this solitude because you might find yourself very busy when you finally pop back out. All right. So that was Cancer. So now we are up to Leo. Let's see what Leo has in store for May. All right. All right, Leo, we've got the Emperor and we've got the Five of Cups. This is very much Mars in your sign, Mars in Leo. So some of y'all are going to be feeling yourselves. Some of you are going to be very aggressive. Like, it's almost like your personality is going to go from a 6 to a 10. Maybe you're not an aggressive person, but I feel like you're going to be very aggressive, aggressively confident, aggressively attention seeking. And I see that this may cause you to do something that you will later regret. Okay. Some of you may be approaching a particular situation in your life very strategically, almost like a drill sergeant. And in doing so, I feel like you're either going to hurt somebody's feelings. Like you may have someone feeling like this, like someone is like, you may disappoint somebody or hurt their feelings, or this may be you in the future. Like, damn, I really shouldn't have acted that way. I really shouldn't have made that decision because now I'm feeling like this. So be mindful of how you present yourself. No one is saying that you can't be feeling yourself or whatever, but if you're overly aggressive, it may cause more harm than good, especially in the long run. So again, be mindful of how you're showing up, how you're speaking, how you are expressing yourself, and how you're asserting yourself against others. Again, if you're being overly aggressive, I feel like that may backfire in the future. Okay, that was Leo. Now let's get to Virgo. Let's see what we got for Virgo for May. Okay. We've got the Ace of Wands. And we've got the Two of Swords. All right, Virgo. So there is something that you've created, or there's something that you have this spark, you have this passion. You're like, okay, I really want to do this. But I feel like in making the decision to do this thing, it may have presented like more than you bargained for. Meaning like, okay, you decide to, start something new in your business, and you're realizing that it requires a lot more work, or it requires you to learn something else. And then you almost have like analysis paralysis because you didn't expect all of this, right? Virgo likes to have things orderly, neat, precise. It's almost a certain level of control when it comes to certain things. And with all of this stuff popping up, it has you feeling sort of out of control, or you're trying to figure out the best and most efficient way to do something. So you may have this, analysis paralysis where you're like, okay, like, I don't know what to do. Like, let me figure this out. I see you sort of sitting there and be like, okay, pause. Let me figure this out. What am I going to do? and you're weighing your options, you're being very analytical, but this is all stemming from something that you truly want to create, something that you are passionate about, something that you've been working towards, something that you may have this spark and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. But then you're like, whoa, hold on. This is a lot. I need to really figure this out. I need to make sense of this. So May find you really in your head, which is no surprise if I'm being honest. You may be really in your head. You may be really analyzing. You may be doing a lot of researching too and decision making. Okay. It's important that you don't allow the overwhelm to stop you from moving forward. Meaning that even though there's a lot of moving parts or something like that, don't allow it to stop you in your tracks. If there are decisions to make, try to make the best possible decision in the appropriate time. Don't try to figure things out, because guess what? If you stay in this analysis paralysis, June is going to come by and you're still going to be like this. July is going to come by and you're still going to be like this. And then you're going to be waiting for the perfect moment. You're going to be waiting for the perfect thing, the perfect time, the perfect whatever it is to move forward. And Spirit is like, yeah, don't do that. It may be a lot, take a little bit of time to analyze, think it through, but still make the necessary decisions to move forward. Okay? Hopefully that made sense. All right. Next up, we've got Libra. All right. So let's see what we got for Libra for May. All right, Libra. We've got the 4 of Swords and we've got the 9 of Wands. Libra, you are tired. You are tired. You are like, I'm tired of fighting. I'm just tired. I'm tired. I'm fed up. Like, damn, can I get a break? Ugh. This is the month where you're going to have some time to rest. This is the time where you're going to need to rest. All right. There's still a little bit more to go, meaning that the frustration, whatever's got you tired, you still have to push through a little bit. Okay. No matter how many battle scars you've got, no matter how wounded you are, no matter how fed up you are, there's still a little bit more work to do. You're not at the end yet. However, in May, it is imperative that you rest your body, that you rest your mind. Okay. This forward momentum it's not like a freight train where you're just going forward at full speed. In order to go the distance, you need to incorporate rest into whatever you're doing, especially when it comes to your mind. Like, you can't just keep going, and then expect your mind to be operating or functioning at optimal capacity. Like, that's just not how it works. You really need some time to rest. You really need some time for a break. You need some time away from whatever it is that's got you so tired, whether it's physically tired, mentally tired, emotionally tired, whatever. Like, if it's a relationship, like, maybe take a couple of days to yourself, right? If it's work, maybe take a break, maybe take a little vacation if you can. If it's your kids, maybe drop the kids off at someone else's house for a little bit so you can get some peace of mind, right? Peace of mind is the priority in May. If you don't prioritize this peace of mind, this is only going to get worse. So at some point during the month of May, take a break, do something nice, do something mindless to get your mind off whatever it is that's got you so tired, and you will come back better. You'll feel rejuvenated. You'll have clarity of thought. You'll be able to continue past this, okay? But you have to have a clear mind, and for that, you need rest. All right, that was Libra. Now we've got Scorpio. Let's see what we got for Scorpio for May. All right, Scorpio, we've got the Death card and we've got the 2 of Wands. So this is you. This is the card of Scorpio. You guys are, so you made a decision in the past, like you were like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. Now you're like, okay, where can this thing take me? And what do I need to do to make this thing come to fruition? Like, I'm hearing by hell or high water. Like, some of you are very determined to do this thing, whatever this thing is. And you're willing to do it at any cost. I don't get the sense that you're willing to do like anything illegal or anything like that, but You're willing to do just about anything to bring this thing to fruition. You feel like the world is open to you. There's this sense of optimism that you guys are feeling. It's optimism with a twinge of twinge. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. Of reality. Like you're like, all right, you're feeling very optimistic, but you're like, okay, I know that there's certain things that I need to do. It's not some pie in the sky pipe dream. It's something real. Okay. And so you guys are just feeling good. You're feeling determined. And most importantly, you feel like you have purpose and direction. You figured out which direction to go into, and you figured out which direction to go, and you're going, and you're doing the necessary work. And that's it. All right. So keep going in the direction that you're going. I feel like you guys have a feeling of purpose, a feeling of determination, and a feeling of optimism. Okay. That was Scorpio. So now we've got Sagittarius. Let's see what we've got for Sagittarius for May. Right. First up, we've got the King of Cups. And we've got Justice. All right, Sag, there is a King of Cups character, okay? This person could be a water sign, so they could be a Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, or someone who just masters their emotions. They're intuitive, they're sensitive, all of that good stuff. This person wants to do right by you. Like they want to right a wrong, or even if they didn't do wrong to you, they just want to give you what you're worth. This person values you. This King of Cups character, okay? And it doesn't have to be a male, you know, it's not gender specific, but I feel like this person just wants to do right by you. I don't get the sense that it's like romantic. I feel like this could be just someone who sees your worth. And they're like, okay, like I know that if I'm going to work with Sag, if I'm going to be friends with Sag, or even if I'm going to be in a relationship of any kind with Sag, this is what I have to bring to the table. I can't come to Sag with anything less than such and such. Someone really sees your worth. They want to do right by you. And this person and you may end up getting very close because I'm hearing birds of a feather flock together. Like it's like you guys are on the same wavelength. You guys either have the same ideals, like the scales are balanced. This is someone who is definitely a match for you in whatever capacity, right? It doesn't have to be just romantic. And they want to do right by you. So I feel like this relationship if it's existing, I feel like this is going to just be more of a good thing, or this could be someone new who is just on your level, on your wavelength. Like they see your worth and they match it. I like that. I like that for you, Sag. That's a very great energy to have. So enjoy that. Okay. Now we've got Capricorn. Let's see what we got for Capricorn for May. Okay. All right, Capricorn. We've got the Knight of Wands and we've got the Wheel of Fortune. All right, cool. So for you, Capricorn, fortune favors the bold. You are being guided in May to make a swift move. Now, this move is going to prove very beneficial for you, but here are the terms. Number one, you can't overthink this. This is going to be something that your instinct or your impulses tell you is going to be a good move, so just do it. Number two, you have to be a little selfish. This isn't the time to ask everyone what they think about this or to weigh in on this. You don't need everybody's 2 cents. If you feel good about it, then it's good for you. Point blank, period. Number three, it's going to require you to take a little bit of a risk. So this is going to have you coming out of your comfort zone, right? This may be having you do something that may be unbecoming of a Capricorn. And I don't necessarily know what that is, but I just feel like it may have you coming out of character a little bit, okay? But this is where your abundance lies. So if there's something that you're fired up about, if there's something that your impulse or your instincts tells you, wow, I really need to do that, or wow, I really need to jump on that, wow, I need to go here, wow, I need to move, wow, whatever it is, just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. That is where your abundance lies, all right? You won't regret that you made that decision, okay? Next up, we've got Aquarius. Let's see what we've got for Aquarius for May. First up, we've got the King of Pentacles and we've got the Seven of Cups. All right, Aquarius, I see a lot of options for you this month. A lot of options. Hope you can see that. Lot of options, especially when it comes to finances or work. And you may be feeling a little confused at all of these options because some of these seem like viable options and others you may not be so sure. Options are always a good thing. It's always a great thing to have options. But use your intuition and your discernment to figure out which options are good and which are not so good. Some of these options are going to be a little deceptive. They're going to sound good on their face, but in reality, they're not going to be as beneficial as they appear to be. So it's really important that you use your intuition and that you listen to your intuition. Allow your intuition to guide you to figure out which option or options to take. But I feel like apart from just your intuition, I think the litmus test for these options is going to be security. Which option is going to have you feeling more secure? Which option is going to have you feeling more grounded? Which option is going to set you up for success in the long run? There's going to be an option that is it sounds too good to be true, and it is. It's one of these, I'm not going to call it a get rich quick scheme, but it sounds like you'd make a lot more money than you would in reality. Allow your intuition to guide you, but take your common sense along for the ride as well, because the ultimate objective is longevity, security in the long term. And so that's what you have to use in order to decipher which option or options are right for you. Okay. And last but certainly not least, we've got Pisces. So let's see what we've got for Pisces for May. That's too many cards. Let's try this again. Oh, that one flew out. Okay. All right. We've got the Ace of Cups and we've got the Six of Swords. All right, Pisces, I see that you are changing your mind about a relationship or about something, an emotional thing. Like you may be changing how you think about it. I feel like there is this shift from thinking the worst to having better thoughts about it. This may also signify like emotional wounds coming back up. And rather than just wallowing in these emotions and reliving these wounds and traumas, I see you like moving past them, like observing them rather than wallowing in them. And it's going to have you feeling good because it shows you how far you've come. I feel like in the past, you may have been someone that wallowed in your emotions. Whenever you got triggered, it's like you relived those things that were triggering you. And so you were in this whirlpool of emotions and now you're finally out. And while the relationship, like in the physical, the relationship, I don't get the sense that the relationship is going to show up in May or that, you know, things, if you're in a relationship already, that things are going to immediately get better. But I do see you're on the way to that. I feel like May is all about a shift in mindset for you with respect to something emotional, or I really feel like it has to do with a relationship, like a romantic relationship. But I feel like the mindset is changing. And when the mindset changes, that's the first thing that has to change if we want to experience change in our outer reality. And so you're on the right track in May when it comes to relationships or relationship specifically. So enjoy it, number one, because I feel like you're going to feel good. But number two, give yourself a pat on the back because you've come a long way. Like I said, I feel like you used to wallow in things. Now you're able to just observe them and let them pass. So kudos to you for that. All right. All right, my love. So that concludes this edition of the monthly Astro Forecast. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use successfully going into May. It has been a pleasure and a privilege to bring this information to you this evening. I sincerely hope that you use it All right. So once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Have an amazing May, and I will see you in my next video. All right, my loves, take care.